Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Audiophile Roundtable. We are live on this Tuesday. Got some special guests today. The topic, albums you can't live without. Hello, I'm Steve Westman. Welcome to this edition. I'm here in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. You guys probably know already. I'm here at the Hi-Fi Center, hificenter.com. Check out our website. Some great gear here. Great prices, too. And if you haven't already, you got to do it. You won't miss any of these shows. Subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate that. Now I'm going to bring on the guests. You probably know them. You saw the description, but I'll bring them on one at a time. So the first guest I have, he a little bit of a record producer for a company called Blue Note. You might have heard of that, or Tone Poet Records. Let's bring him on. Let's see who this guy is. Mr. Joe Harley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you, Stephen?
Very good. We haven't spoken since the last time you were on our show. I can't remember how long ago that was. That was a while ago now, but thank you so much for joining me or joining us.
Pleasure to do it.
Do you have your records ready for the ones that you can't live without for that segment of the show?
I do.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited to see which ones those are. A lot of people are. Okay, do you want to meet the other guests, Joe?
I do.
Let's do it. Our next guest from New York, New York. He does a little Instagram called Jazz and Coffee. He's a music marketer, writer, jazz reviewer, all-around great guy. He does a little Instagram called Jazz and Coffee. Syd Schwartz. Someone has their YouTube on, so I'm getting some echoes probably from you, Syd. But welcome to the show. Syd Schwartz. Someone has their YouTube. I think Syd has his YouTube on as well, so I'm getting major echo there. So next guest here, you know him from the Jazz Bums. There he is, Mike from the Jazz Bums. How are you?
Hey, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you can make it back. I'm very happy. I think Syd's having some issues with his microphone. I'm going to see what's going on first with that. He went off his camera, so. Glad you can make it back. I'm very happy. So he's getting major feedback. So welcome, guys, to this edition. Albums we can't live without. I know, Mike, you want to start with maybe some news of the week that's going on, some releases. What do you want to start with?
I have some cool things that came in that people may be interested in. So a couple records that are pretty difficult to get have recently been reissued by a label called P-Vine. And these are on Strata East. This is Glass Speed Gains by Clifford Jordan. This, as well as Clifford Jordan in the World. These are two Strata East titles. They're both difficult to get. I think the Glass Speed Games goes for about $500 now, and this other one goes for
if you don't mind, put them up on the screen a little bit longer for everyone to see. And just basically tell us which ones they are each so everyone knows again.
Sure. So that's Glass Speed Games. Really good Clifford Jordan quartet record. And one thing to note, though, is that the label Strata East, which was founded by Stanley Cowell and Charles Tolliver, they were kind of an artist first label. So the artist got the rights to all the master tapes. So a lot of the reissues, like on Pure Pleasure and these P-Vines, are actually not from the original master tape. This, in fact, is from a needle drop. It says that. So just want to let you guys know that. But this sounds really excellent. I would not be able to tell it's a needle drop. And this other one is Clifford Jordan in the World. This is a double 45, and this is also needle drop. And I think it's just because those master tapes are people can't get them. They don't know where they are. And then P-Vine also released this Gemini 2 by Marcus Belgrave. This is on Tribe. This is actually my favorite Tribe record. So I was really happy to get this. Again, this is from a needle drop. So the audiophiles beware, but these are great albums, and they're placeholders for me. Hopefully one day I can get originals. And then just one more. So our friends at the at Analog October Records put out their first reissue, and it's this Courtney Pine Journey to the Urge Within. This is a digital source, but this is put out by Analog. What is it? It's Analog October Records. This is Craig Crane's record in the UK. You can get it from his website as well as his Discogs. And then this was mastered at Gearbox Records by Casper Sutton Jones. This sounds phenomenal. So this is their first release. So I think it's a really excellent record, and go on and support them. It's a good one to pick up. I think the first run is 1,000 press. So, and from what I've heard, he sold pretty well so far.
Very nice. Did you buy any of those at the record fair that you were at last weekend with the whole gang?
No, but I did buy this one here, this Joe Henderson.
Okay.
And I totally blew my budget, so I won't be buying records for a while.
And your wife's right beside you, so she even knows you blew your budget. I'm impressed. Yeah. Syd, you're back. How's the audio? We not getting any feed or any
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you might have had the YouTube on at the same time. You're not supposed to.
Coming from another laptop plugged in that I hadn't seen was actually online. My apologies.
You're just plugged into Roundtable all around the house there. I wanted to introduce
laptops everywhere.
I wanted to introduce the folks to you, and I just wanted to do this here now that you're. This is your Instagram, Jazz and Coffee, and guys, he does some great. Like, it's not just, oh, I'm going to just take a picture of a jazz album and put it up. He goes into great detail and depth every single album that he's putting up. Hence why he has 13,000 followers, or almost 14,000. So check out Jazz and Coffee. Follow him. Great stuff. Some of the best stuff on. Some of the best stuff on Instagram. Go, Joe.
If I can brag on Syd a little bit, seriously, if you don't look at his Instagram, I mean, Syd's one of the best writers, most insightful writers about jazz on the internet, and that's just a fact. So if you don't subscribe, you should, because you don't know what you're
need to follow Syd. I'll put it up again. Jazz and Coffee. Hopefully get some followers today. Again, not just take a picture and then, oh my, look at my album. He goes into depth and detail and really breaks down the album, and it's a lot of work goes into it. You clearly spend a lot of time reviewing these records. This isn't just like lying in bed one night just tapping out a couple of paragraphs here. This is pretty in-depth stuff, correct?
I thank you. First of all, Joe, thank you, Steve, thank you all. Thank you for anybody who's reading and following. I enjoy spending the time. It's who doesn't love a great jazz record, and understanding a little more around the context of it. And Joe and his team over at Blue Note, and the teams at Kraft, the teams at Warner Music, the teams at all of the jazz labels that are continuing to kind of keep the flame burning are doing a lot for keeping this music in print, and doing a lot for the next generations that are out there waiting to discover it. And I certainly do what I can to put some context around it. But there are a lot of great writers on Instagram that are out there also doing the same thing, and trying to bring their own personal experiences as to why it's worth listening to all this great music.
Great stuff. I really enjoy every time you post a new album. It's like, wow. Now, every single time I can't buy them all, but I mean, it's very, very hard to just not go to Discogs or wherever and not want to buy them. So, every time I look at your Instagram, it costs me money. That's for sure. Any other news you want to discuss, Joe? Do you have anything going on? Syd, what's going on? I mean, you got a lot going on, Joe. That's probably, obviously we know that, but is there anything you can share with us that's going on?
A lot going on, not much that I can share. But,
these damn NDAs, huh? Darn it. Okay.
Well, no, it's not that. We work so far out in front. I mean, the records we're mastering tomorrow and Thursday will see the light of day, and I'm not kidding you, mid to late 2026. Almost.
I had a question for that. I mean, if anyone doesn't got here late, this is Joe Harley, producer for the Tone Poet vinyl series, of course. Now, how far in advance do you guys go? Like, you're gonna, you decide on the catalog like last year, and now you're mastering it. Like, what's the process? How far in advance is this? Is there like a process to actually determine who is going to be remastered and reissued? Like, how does it work?
Real simple. I've made lists for years, and I basically submit my lists to Don, and Don goes, "That's really cool, man. Go for it." And that's how it works. And then it's a matter of just asking the tape vault guy, Jack Arenas, to pull the tapes. We look at them. We make sure they're what we think they should be. And then they get sent to Kevin, and I go up and we master them. but we're working about 2.5 years out front.
So it must have been difficult during the whole COVID thing to really figure out, what was going to work in terms of the catalog that you were going to put out there, or did it really matter at that point?
You know what? Kevin and I just kept mastering.
Yeah.
We sat in his studio with our masks on, and we just kept going.
So I wanted to, friend of the shows, friend of a lot of people. I wanted to, I'm a friend of Kirsten Edkins. I wanted to basically put it out there again. Kirsten Edkins, her Shapes and Sounds album for Grammy consideration. We know now that best jazz performance or Sweet Pickles, jazz instrumental album, best engineered album for non-classical with Kevin and Ryan, and then best master, I guess Grammy for master and engineer nomination. So again, awesome, amazing. We'll find out. I think it's December. Joe, is that when we'll find out if they get the actual Grammy nomination?
I voted last week, and I think, December, I believe, is when that will come out.
Well, that would be really exciting. I'm really happy for Kevin, obviously, and for Kirsten and the gang. It's amazing. So
Yeah.
So Syd, do you have any news or anything going on right now in the world of jazz that you can share with us that's out there and that we don't know about?
Actually, a bit of sad news, unfortunately, to share that just came across my radar. It appears Carla Bley has flown from the world.
Oh man!
Oh man!
New York Times just posted something about it. So 87. So, but rest in
married to Steve Swallow.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
So rest in power, Carla Bley. I mean, there's always something happening in the world of jazz. Certainly, the labels are keeping us hopping with an awful lot of reissues, which is great. There's Record Store Day coming up, which I know continues to generate some mixed feelings in the community. But I guess one of the things that kind of excites me a lot about Record Store Day, and whether it's jazz or rock or pop or country, the genre kind of really doesn't matter. It is bringing new vinyl enthusiasts and music enthusiasts and younger people into the fold of the hobby, and I think that's great. I think it's good for all of us, and the more people, the better. And I was really stoked the last Record Store Day to see that there were younger people coming in, and there were veteran collectors who were really going out of their way not to kind of scoff at their newbiness or make them feel like they didn't know what they were doing or anything of the sort, but helping them out in some cases, not making a bad decision, and overpaying $50 for a beat up copy of Zeppelin 3 when you just didn't need to do that. So it was kind of it was heartwarming to see people kind of swapping war stories, and seeing someone who was clearly in their late 60s or early 70s kind of talking to a younger person about how you make a decision or how you look at something in the dead wax, and that was pretty cool. So I'm happy to see that there is a sense of inclusivity happening, and that it's not so much a get off my lawn, this is our hobby, and we don't want to see whether it's Taylor Swift fans or fans of younger music kind of coming into the store.
And that's the thing I've touched upon in the last shows as well. I'm real, and I have teenage daughters, and I have them into vinyl. They have their own listening room with an all right record player and amp, nothing like mine up in my own listening room, but just so they can get into vinyl, and they have been buying the Taylor Swifts, buying the Olivia Rodrigos and Noah Kahns and all these artists, and they're great, and I listen to them all. So I mean, and they're not much into jazz yet, but they do play different instruments. But I was going to ask Joe that as well, in terms of your market, and then maybe looking to the next 5 or 10 years, expanding that market, right? Because the people that are maybe buying your records now might not be around in 5 or 10 years. I mean, maybe
you'd be surprised at the demographic.
Yeah, no, I'm. That's why I'm asking that, because I'm curious to know what the demographic actually is.
It peaks about. There's like a steady rise in the 30s, peaks around 38, 39, and then drops off in the 50s, and slowly then kind of there's a point in the 60s where it levels off again, and then assume people maybe are losing their hearing in their 70s and 80s. I haven't yet, but yeah, the peak is a lot of 30 somethings and younger 40s, a lot. You'd be surprised.
And what were you seeing at these record stores? How old were the younger ones, Syd, that you were seeing or noticing?
I mean, I was seeing kids as young as 10 kind of, pulling on mom's, purse strap going, can advance me next week's allowance, and and all that was great. Yeah. And some of them were doing the same stuff that I certainly did when I was 10. Like, that album cover looks cool, so I want to buy it because the album cover looks cool. And terrific. I mean, whatever's going to kind of get you into the funnel. We've all seen that it kind of quickly. I'm looking at the backgrounds. Here it grows pretty quickly, and it's just a matter of getting started. And I think rather than make someone feel like they don't know what they're doing, the fact that you want to kind of bring them in and get them involved is really what it's all about. And I don't think there's any kind of one stereotypical demographic anymore. I think it's many demographics getting involved for many different reasons.
And I mean, we've made, you see these posts of people that post, oh, I've got a Crosley or whatever, a starter turntable, and you get the comments, people are being all nasty about it. I think that's probably wrong. It's great that they're even doing that. And I mean, I think they should be, commended for that and not sort of feel shame and, get all that shame that a lot of people do because they have a cheap record player. Who cares? They're spinning vinyl, they're buying it, they're understanding it. And eventually, not everyone has, can afford to buy all this stuff, right? I mean, I get all that. So they have to start somewhere, save their money and work up. So, I mean, it's nice that they're even buying record players because, I mean, there's so much more than just streaming this. And I touch upon it a lot. It's the tangible aspect. I mean, you buy a Blue Note record, right, Joe? You open it up, the gatefold, you see the beautiful pictures. It's a glossy feel. I mean, you actually have an experience with it, whereas streaming, you just click on tap on your song and sit back and that's it. It's not the same experience from a musical standpoint than it would be if you have the vinyl. That's truly how I feel about it. I don't know anyone who would disagree with that.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
So I want to know, I mean, our theme today was albums we can't live without. I asked you guys to pick like 3 because I don't know how long it will take to go through all of these. So, we know from our last show, Mike, how long it took for doing 2. So I want to start, we'll go around one each. Albums we can't live without. I'm curious to know, Mr. Joe Harley, what your first album you can never live without is. Tell us all about it. And I want to know why. Tell the folks why.
Sure. Now, I purposely didn't pick any Blue Notes because my feeling would be if you want to see my favorite Blue Notes, look at everything, we've done for the last, since 2007, actually. First Music Matters, and then starting in 2018 with Blue Note. So all of those are my favorites. But I didn't pick any Blue Notes just because that's a little too obvious. So the first one, which I remember riding my bicycle to the store to buy when it came out, is this album by Miles Davis, Miles in the Sky. I've been hopeless fanatic about the second great quartet, or quintet, meaning Herbie, Wayne, Ron, Carter, Tony Williams, Miles, since I was in high school. And you know what? To this day, the way that group dealt with time and the elasticity of time is like nothing it's breathtaking to hear. And this record, all of the second great quintet, they did that. They just played with time and stretched it like taffy and messed around. They were all on the same wavelength. But this record was the first time electric piano showed up, and which was at the time a real shock. It's on one track called Stuff on here. But if you want to hear an incredible example of what I'm talking about with time, go to the last track, Country Sun, which comes in just blazing. Just the band's burning, and you can't believe they'd start like this. And then it goes on for, 10 minutes or so, and goes through so many gyrations. It goes into ballad mode, and it goes into funk mode. And it's just like bands don't do that anymore. They don't have that same kind of adventurousness of spirit and an ability to just communicate psychically with each other. So it's a favorite. It's an absolute favorite. I was going to cheat and really make Syd mad and say, here's one I can't live without. And this is the Mosaic box set of Miles to Plug Nickle, but it's like 15 records. And I thought that might be cheating. But for those who don't know this, you should really get familiar.
So Joe, put up the first record again. I have you full screen so everyone can see which one it is. I mean, that to me looks like the Mobile Fidelity pressing of Miles in the Sky. Would that be the one that you would recommend as well in terms of the best sound quality from your collection?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And why do you feel that way about that one?
Oh, it blows away my original. It's like head and shoulders better than the original I have. In fact, I filed the original in the garage.
It's gone, never to be listened to again then.
Well, my wife would point out that it isn't gone. No records, according to her, ever leave. They only come in, they never go.
But you know, Jerry Seinfeld does this great bit about how once it moves to the garage, it never comes from the garage back into the house.
Right. I'm going to use that.
That's really good. So Miles Davis, Miles in the Sky, MoFi edition, and that's a 45 RPM cut as well. Everyone should realize too.
Yeah, it is.
I do have that one. That sounds fantastic. It's spectacular.
They're all great. Any of those quintet records. You know.
Did you get a chance, Joe? Did you get the Vinyl Me Please Miles Electric Years box set? Did you get a chance? Did you get that set?
I didn't, because I have all those anyway. Okay. So I didn't.
I was just wondering to know, curious if you had a chance to listen to that box set, comparing it to the MoFis. It'd be fascinating to know the differences if there's any.
You know, I think that is mainly, there could be some overlap. Syd, you might know. Is there overlap on that box? I don't know. I mean, the electric stuff I have, you know, Black Beauty and all of those, mostly I have Japanese editions of the electric stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Most of my electric pressings are also Japanese, you know, editions.
They do. I think they do 4. They start with In a Silent Way. They do Bitches Brew.
So there's some overlap right there.
There's 4 of the titles are also MoFis.
Okay.
Jack Johnson.
Right.
Yeah.
As well.
Can't remember the other one.
Okay, Syd, you're up. Tell us your one pick so far that you can't live without.
So, you know, Joe cheated with his box. I'm going to cheat also by first showing you a bootleg vinyl. So this is my beloved first ever bootleg vinyl, which I purchased from Johnny's Records in Darien.
Let's see the back. Let's see the back of it.
This is the back. This is Yes in the Round. The date that you see there is incorrect. It was actually recorded October 28th, 1978, Wembley Arena in London. Broadcast by the BBC, subsequently rebroadcast here in the States, I believe, by either Westwood One or King Biscuit. Tail end of the 78 Tormato tour, kind of one of several live Yes peaks. This vinyl might as well be clear. I've played it to the point of wearing it through. It's not the entire show. That's 2 LPs. The rest of it is on this single LP, 12 Towers at Dawn, a lot harder to find, which is the rest of the show. But, you know, if you were to say, you know, what's the record you probably have listened to most in your life more than anything, that's probably it, because I got it when I was, 14 years old, and it's just been a companion with me ever since. But since you can't really buy that anywhere, one of the tracks was released officially. The version of All Good People wound up as the bonus 45 on the classic Yes LP, and I think also tacked on as a bonus track on the CD. But sticking with Yes for a moment, if we want to get more into the official releases, this is the record that I could not live without. of all the Yes catalog, it stands high and mighty. It is, it is the record that has stuck with me. The studio Yes record all these years that remains at the top of the list. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're talking to the world's biggest Yes fan. Love those guys unreservedly, but Close to the Edge is absolutely the record that I would grab, en route down to the panic room when the zombie apocalypse broke out.
So which pressing is that? So you can tell the folks which one that you have in your hot little hand there.
Well, so, I mean, which one should we talk about? This is the most recent Chris Bellman cut that came out a few years ago. This is an original pressing. I didn't bring them all out here with me. I've got the original poster hanging on my wall. I've got the Steven Wilson remixes. I really love the Steven Wilson remix. I think the Wilson remix that came out a few years back is really good, particularly if you've got a Blu-ray player, you like the high res and you're into that kind of thing. That sounds really great. The Bellman cut is wonderful. Really, really, really strong pressing. This most recent pressing, you can buy that fairly inexpensively. I think that's around $30 and pretty easy to find.
Did you order the Atlantic 75th 45 RPM cut of it?
I did not, but it's certainly under consideration.
I was going to say you could add to your collection. I know it's not out yet, but I mean, I want that. I want the 45 RPM, the Atlantic 75th of that one. So I'm definitely going to pick that one up.
Understood.
Good pick. I was not at all thinking that you would throw Yes out there, so that's incredible. You got me.
Well, I've had them on the brain. Shameless self-promotion. I did the liner notes for the Super Deluxe edition of the Yes album, which is coming out on November 24th. So since Joe doesn't want to shamelessly self-promote, I'll shamelessly self-promote. So that's on Rhino as well, and that's going to be a treat. So
tell the folks about that again. So that's a Rhino release of the Yes album. You did the liner notes. Now, who was the master and engineer? Who cut that one?
So Bellman cut the vinyl on that. That's going to be a packaging similar to if you've seen the Super Deluxe edition of Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Deja Vu, where it has the vinyl on one side, I believe 4 CDs or 3 CDs, and I forget the exact configuration, but several CDs and a Blu-ray, and then booklet in between. But Bellman cut the vinyl on that. And lots of goodies on that. Full details are on the Rhino website, and the Yes album is it's the record where Yes became Yes, kind of like how as a Rush fan as well, I'd say 2112 was the record where Rush became Rush.
So question for you, Sid. So you write the liner notes. Who approves the liner notes after you've written them? The band, the label? How does that work?
I have to talk to Rhino about the approval process. I send it to them. It goes into the into the hopper there at Rhino, and I'm sure they have internal mechanisms. I mean, when I was at a label, there were varying, I had a stint at EMI, I had a stint at Sony. Both had very different processes for, handling such approvals. And I think it also depends on, which artist and which album you're talking about. So.
Yeah. I had a question about the Yes album again. So you said you really like the Steven Wilson remix. What is the real difference between the remix and, let's say, the Bellman cut that you're really hearing? What are the big differences?
So, I mean, my system, and I've got a Riga Planar 3 turntable, and that's going into a Riga Pre and Piega 510 wireless speakers. My system probably resolves a little more aggressively, not aggressively, that's the wrong word to put. It's a little more detailed on the digital side, on high res, and maybe a little less so when it comes to vinyl, depending on what it is that I'm listening to. There is something about the sparkle of the high res on the Steven Wilson that really punches through beautifully. Really, really nice. It doesn't sound exactly like the original, and that varies depending on which of the Steven Wilson Yes records that you're talking about. But in some cases, I didn't want it to sound like the original. For both Tales from Topographic Oceans and Relayer, and I don't want to get too far afield from our topic today, I thought he improved the sound on both of those albums a great deal. I thought he took Relayer and really made that record shine, and I thought he took Tales from Topographic Oceans and really brought that record to a place where it can be reevaluated very strongly. He really did magic with both of those records, and he did a great job with Fragile and Close to the Edge as well.
It's funny, you hear a lot of mixed reviews about Wilson's remixes. Some love them, some don't. So I mean, I think it just depends on what you know about the album as well. So someone like yourself has had the album since you were almost in diapers, right? So you definitely know that record and be able to compare the remix to the original. So that's really nice review there. Now I have to go out and buy that one. Thanks, Sid.
I mean, you're welcome. But I think the one of the chief complaints about some of Wilson's work is that it's revisionist history, and I'm not sure that I agree with that assessment, because in all of those cases, all of it, whether it's the Jethro Tull stuff he did or the King Crimson stuff he did or the Yes stuff that he did, the original flat transfer is always a part of those packages. There's often needle drops of the vinyl on there. I mean, it's including, hey, here was the original bass line and here's another look at it and here's a 5/1 mix. So you have options, and I understand that. A lot of those things don't really work for those who are exclusively vinyl, but if you are in the digital domain, you do have a couple of different ways that you can look at it. And I think that flexibility really gives you an opportunity to take a look at the record in a much broader perspective.
So the Rhino Super Deluxe package that you wrote the liner notes for, when does it come out so people can have a look to order it? November 24th. Watch. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Mike from the Jazz Bums.
All right.
Hang on, I'm putting you full screen. I'm ready for this one. Go for it.
All right. Thank you again for having me, Steve. I think these prompts are really fun to think about. They kind of challenge me and make me look at my collection and kind of figure out what I'd want to show if I could just show 3 records. I am going to show a lot more than 3 records because I kind of was thinking about it in catalogs. But before I jump into the first one, or let me jump into the first one with some quotes. So Felipe and Chris have read Dexter Gordon's autobiography or biography, I think, written by his wife. And one of the things that they were telling me is this quote that kind of stuck in my head. And it's, this is by Dexter Gordon. It's, when you know the lyrics of a tune, you have some kind of insight into its composition. If you don't understand what the song's about, you're depriving yourself of being really able to communicate this poem. And there was also a recent interview on YouTube by the drummer Kenny Washington, which I was watching, and he said something similar. He was basically like, even as the drummer, you have to know everything. You have to know the songs, you have to know the lyrics, because all that helps you to communicate it to the audience. So I wanted to kind of set that up because before I really got into jazz, and if you watch the channel, you'll probably know who I'm going to recommend, but I got into Frank Sinatra pretty deeply, and I kind of explored his entire catalog, and that was like an education in the American songbook, which I didn't realize would be extremely beneficial for my journey in music later, where I would listen to Coltrane ballads and hear him do Say It, right? And I can think of Sinatra and Dorsey do that, and I can hear the lyrics. So for me, it makes it that much more enjoyable. So I would recommend, it doesn't have to be Frank Sinatra. For me, that kind of who works. So this is an original Wee Small Hours pressing. I think it's a D1, D2 stamper. So first stamper apparently on that black label, and it's very clean. I think I got this for like $5. So that's another good thing about Sinatra. You can get it for cheap. And another thing, this is a Torch album. So he does all these kind of dark ballads on this. And then he does these other types of records. This is Songs for Swingin' Lovers. I think this is like a 3rd pressing on that Rainbow label. It sounds fantastic, but this is upbeat and swinging. So he has these thematic albums, especially in his early Capitol years, which starts from like 1953. I would recommend like 53 to like maybe like 58 or something like that. All those records are fantastic. So I think, understanding the songs and knowing this American songbook, whether it's Sinatra or it's Ella Fitzgerald or anyone else, I think is a really important education. And I constantly am like putting these albums on just whenever, just to, whatever mood I'm feeling. And this one is really kind of one that got me into Sinatra. This is At the Sands with Count Basie. It's a 2 LP and it's his show in Vegas. And he does a lot of famous songs on this one. But I would say that for my Can't Live Without, it certainly has to be Frank Sinatra to start. And it's his entire catalog. And I know that he does like a lot of like, like hacky kind of stuff sometimes. So you kind of have to deal with that. But those early Capitol records are really fantastic. And he does a few records with Gordon Jenkins that are just amazing. I think those kind of get ignored a lot. Those are excellent records. Neil Hefti, he does. He works with a lot of composers on Capitol, and all of them kind of have a different signature. But they're really fun to get into. And another thing about Frank is you can start early on with 78s, and then you can end up in the digital realm. So you can look at like the expansion of recorded music with one artist. And you can, for every kind of era, you can kind of learn about that. Like the U47 microphone in Capitol Studio A, I learned about Frank, because of Frank. So it's a really great education. His music's really fun. And yeah, I mean, you can go really deep with them. But I would recommend, if you're going to get two, I mean, it's really hard to pick two. But I would say for a Torch album, I do like Wee Small Hours. That's kind of my favorite. I think his voice is best on this. Mm-hmm. And then I think you can go with this for the Swingin record, A Swingin' Affair. That's a really good one too. So that's my first pick.
I have to I'm going to promote you. I know you won't self-promote you, but there's Mike's channel, the Jazz Bums. Subscribe if you haven't already. Great stuff on there. Now, I'm going to promote Blue Notes a little bit here. Tone Poet, I have to. I know Joe's not going to. But, Joe, there are some releases, and this one really intrigues me, and I will tell you, I have already pre-ordered it on Amazon and the Canadian website. Comes to Canada December 1st. You got to tell me a little bit about this. This is Grant Green, I Want to Hold Your Hand. The first track is I Want to Hold Your Hand, which is a Beatles obviously song. I'm not a huge Beatles, I like the originals, but I actually went and streamed this the other day, and I really enjoyed this album. I really enjoyed that song in particular, which is surprising me because I always like original Beatles stuff. I don't like when anyone redoes it. So tell me about Grant Green. Tell me about I Want to Hold Your Hand. Why should we buy this record?
Well, so that rhythm section, so Larry Young, Grant Green, Elvin Jones, they made 4 different records, and they're all amazing. We did what I was talking about. We did that at Music Matters. Into Something that has Sam Rivers on it. I'm forgetting one. What's the other one? Syd, what am I forgetting?
Wait, we get Into Something, Want to Hold Your Hand, Green Street?
No, he's not on that. But anyway, they're all great. And on this one, this is my original because I don't have the new one yet. I don't have the final jacket.
You don't have a test pressing, Joe, lying around?
Oh,
there?
yeah. Okay. I have test pressings.
In the garage.
2 years into the future. No, they're sitting right here.
This is becoming a Seinfeld episode, Syd.
But Hank Mobley is the 4th member of the band. So you have Hank Mobley, Grant Green, Larry Young, Elvin Jones. What could possibly go wrong? And so it's great. It's a great record. I know, you look at the cover and the title, and yeah, people think, what are they covering, the Beatles? But again, think about who this is, and it's just a masterful record, I think. Also one you can really turn out to.
Well, I'm excited for that one. Like I said, I pre-ordered it through Amazon here, and December 1st, it says it will be shipping out to me. So
cool.
Nice little pre-Christmas gift. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
so,
man.
I mean, we're probably all Beatles fans here. And so again, we're talking about albums we can't live without. I mean, I can't live without the entire Beatles catalog, but it has to be, it's not the reimagined, the Giles Martin stuff, although I still buy it. I'll still buy the blue and red stuff that's, apparently coming out this month or next month, all the reimagined stuff. But for me, I can't live without this guy right here. This is my 2014, the Beatles in mono. I know Joe has it there on your right somewhere.
Yep.
It's funny. I found a picture on the net the other day. This is when it was first being pressed. Have a look at this. Look at all the boxes of the Beatles mono. And I was trying to find out, I've asked a lot of sources how many were pressed of the Beatles mono box. No one seems to know. And I brought this story out a few weeks ago on one of my shows. It's like, I remember going to Costco in 2014. This is in Kelowna, British Columbia. And they'd have one of these big baskets with piles of Beatles mono boxes in them. So, and those are like, what, $200 or whatever they were at the time, and they took a long time to sell. And I know when it was first released, talking to Miles Scholl from Abbey Road, they were worried. It wasn't selling as quickly as they thought back in 2014. Now, I look at that and I remember the huge pile they had. I should have bought them for $200 because I would have made quite the profit. But hindsight is what it is. So, that's for me. I like the mono. That's the way it was recorded, the way I remember listening to it. And I'll buy the reimagined from Giles Martin, but those are the ones I'll play every single time. Love them. Won't get any argument there, will I?
Yeah, good pick.
Thank you. All right, Joe, go. Your turn again.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been on a Sonny Rollins jag recently. Been reading Iden Levy's book, Saxophone Colossus, which is this mammoth. It's over there, so I won't try to get it, but it's like, it's 700 pages. It's so good. It's really good. Of course, Sonny made some phenomenal records for Blue Note, Volume 1, Volume 2, Nuke's Time, and the Vanguard recordings are just Evening at the Vanguard.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Full, just unbelievable. But since I'm not going to talk about Blue Note stuff, so I picked this other one that is one of my all-time favorites. It's called The Bridge. Let's see if
Hang on, I'll put you full screen here.
I have that pressing.
Yeah.
That's
this is
the classic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bernie cut it. It's, he did a bunch of records for RCA, but these ones that he did with Jim Hall, so it's just quartet. It's Sonny, Jim Hall, Cranshaw, and who's playing drums? Ben Riley, Monk's drummer. It's just, Sonny's really in full flight. And if you want to hear, like, what is he all about, go to side 2 and play the title track where he just turns the thing inside out, upside down, shakes it for a bit and dumps it on the floor and then picks it up and goes again. It's ridiculous. And then the next track, and so you're kind of left just stunned at what he's doing. And then the next track, he plays God Bless the Child, ballad, and does the same thing. Now it's in ballad style, but again, you're just floored. You're just floored by the artistry.
I have a theory about that record, in that the bridge is also a metaphor from side A to side B because of that difference. And it's like you could see the progression, the bridge, and then obviously it's so. But that is a great Sonny Rollins record.
And of course, he very famously kind of stepped off the scene for a while and would go to the Williamsburg Bridge.
I think it's Williamsburg, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And go up there at night, and so as not to disturb neighbors, and would just play for hours. And he did that day after day for years.
Yeah. I mean, that's an inspiring part of the story. I mean, I'm glad you brought that one up, Joe. It's, he had neighbors down the hall that he knew were, one was pregnant and, people were working. He didn't want to disturb them, but he was frustrated with his own playing and decided it was a self-imposed sabbatical, basically, to go woodshed on that bridge for a period of years until he was, more in touch with his own, sense of self and how he was playing. If anything, I think when he came back and released the bridge, the expectations amongst critics and fans were that he was going to drop this, completely new, groundbreaking kind of thing. And there was some disappointment, my recollection, in some critical response to that it was a little more conventional than I think what the expectations were. And, which is why expectation around something like that can often be a prison. Just, trust in Sonny Rollins. I mean, look at what the guy has accomplished. Well, look at what he accomplished before. Look at what he accomplished afterwards. So, jokes on the critics. I think if anything, over the years, the record has become, reassessed in a way that's, just it's continued to creep upwards in the pantheon of Sonny Rollins. So great record.
Yeah.
Well, Terry Watcher says there was once a petition to rename the Williamsburg Bridge to the Rollins Bridge, but that fell through. That would have been something.
Relaunch that petition.
Let's do it. Do it today.
Sonny's still with us too.
The petition is still live. They're still short of signatures. So if anybody wants to search for it, I'm sure it'll come up on Google. So, but it's still live. I don't know if it's like active, but the page is still live.
So this is that. So it's not. It hasn't. Where is that? It has not fallen through. Then, no pun intended, with this bridge being renamed.
Last I checked, which was like a few months ago.
Okay. So Google it. Get on
Google
the list. Who's next? Who's next now? Syd, I guess. Is it Syd's turn again? Yeah, it's Syd's turn. What do you got for us? Again, I should say this is albums we can't live without.
So, I mean, probably a bit of in ways, a slightly Captain Obvious choice in the world of jazz. Picking a favorite Wayne Shorter record, as I've said on the Jazz and Coffee channel, is like picking a favorite child. But, this is the one for me. Speak No Evil, this was a Christmas Eve session with Freddie Hubbard, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Elvin Jones. It's one of 3 incredible leader sessions from Wayne Shorter in 1964. And that's in addition to his making 3 records as a jazz messenger, joining the Second Great Quintet, and then also finding time to do things like, sideman on Lee Morgan's Search for the New Land. I don't know if Wayne Shorter slept in 1964. He composed 30 something compositions. I mean, the man was just on fire. I mean, having a hell of a year. And it's interesting because the 3 records he led in 64, each kind of had a nod to what helped Wayne Shorter become Wayne Shorter. Night Dreamer was the first of them, and that was kind of a postcard to the jazz messengers and the hard bop that he kind of helped evolve. And then Juju, which kind of came over that summer, was an homage to his mentor and friend Coltrane. And then Speak No Evil was kind of really more about where he was headed with the Second Great Quintet, which Joe referenced before. And it's just such a phenomenal record. Every track, there's something new. Every time you spin it, you will hear something that maybe you didn't quite notice before, wasn't as prominent or front and center to your ears as before. It is an essential jazz record. Anyone who's building a library that says, what are a few records that I should start with, I always point them in the direction of Speak No Evil. It's phenomenal.
Well, thank you for that. Joe, the bridge record that you have, is it stereo or mono?
Stereo.
Okay. There was someone that asked that, so I just wanted to make sure. So for me, one of my favorite records, and I spoke about my very first jazz album was a CD when I was, I guess, on the show last week with Mike. And I also have it on the EP. 45 RPM cut. I mean, you can't, has to be an essential one in your collection, the Dave Brubeck Quartet Timeout. I mean, what more can I say? I don't really sit here and talk about that one, but for me, that's one that I cannot live without. I have to have on. I listen to it probably at least once a month when I'm, picking albums to listen to, and just sit there and just really, it brings back a lot of memories for me, because again, this was my very first jazz album I ever purchased when I was 17 years old. So has a lot of memories for me. Mr. Harley again. Albums we can't. Oh no, is it Mike? Sorry, it's Mike, isn't it? We go Mike.
Yeah,
now.
I could jump in.
Okay, jump in.
Okay.
Albums we can't live without.
Okay, so for my second pick, it's another stack of records. And these are important to me because they are the records that really kind of got me into jazz vinyl collecting and learning about dead wax and certain pressings and going after specific things and waiting until I could find a clean copy. And these are, I'm going to show 4, but then I'm going to show a 5th one. And these are, somewhat obvious choices. This is Cooking, Working, Relaxing, Steaming. And this is the First Great Quintet with Miles. So it's Philly Joe Jones, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, John Coltrane, and Miles Davis. And yeah, I think these are, I just love these records. They recently reissued these, repressed the reissue on Analog Productions, and I believe they're in stock. And then the new OJC series put out Workin'. My Workin' is actually a reissue with this red cover. And then I did pick up the OJC too. And honestly, those reissues are my go-tos. But it really is nice to have the originals. And these sound fantastic as well. In particular, which one is it? I think it's Workin'. No, it's sorry. I think it's Steamin' with the blue label, Prestige. It's really fantastic. But in addition to getting these, I started just going down the Miles rabbit hole. And this is a little bit earlier. And it's 2 sessions in, what is it, like 1954. And this probably is my favorite Miles record, although his whole catalog is essential. And I love the second quintet just as much. But I think just in my own kind of collecting and getting this early and getting a good price on it, and the title track, this is Walkin'. And Miles's horn on this is just so fantastic that I love this record. And this definitely deserves a reissue. So OJC, if you're listening, or Kraft, if you're listening, I mean, this one sounds really good. It's still really early too. So this is the Bergenfield pressing. So I think it's a second press. But those early Miles records have a special place for me because that's kind of where I started.
Well, very nice. So Joe, I've been reading the comments, and you're going to be on your third pick of albums you can't live without. And there's sort of a wager right now. If you're going to go metal on us, maybe it's a Metallica, maybe it's Kiss, maybe it's AC/DC. So you're next up. Let's see what Joe Harley comes up with. His third album he cannot live without. We're curious. Go for it.
Well, so anyone who's followed the series knows I'm a huge fan of Gil Evans. And so this is one, the individualism of Gil Evans that is, I think, well, I mean, look who's on this record. You got Wayne Shorter, Eric Dolphy, Elvin Jones, Johnny Coles, and a bunch of other people. And it's just, I played it last night, world events being what they are. And I needed to chill a little bit, because so much going on, it's crazy times. And this record takes me to a different place. There's a track, the leadoff track is called the Barbara Song. And Wayne takes this solo that is so subtle. A lot of people miss it. They don't, you have to kind of point it out. It's like, check out Wayne when he starts and just follow him. He plays these long held tones, which is perfect for Gil. And he just gets up inside the music in a way that is so breathtaking and brilliant. And yet the total opposite of what we were talking about with Sonny Rollins. It's not like all overt and out there. It's up in there, it's up inside. So that one always gets to me. And then Dolphy's great on these, and I think it's one of Gil's greatest albums. Needs to be reissued because I don't think anyone has reissued this to my knowledge. Maybe Speaker's Corner, maybe.
There might be a reissue,
but they wouldn't have been working from the master tapes, so I haven't heard it, so I shouldn't say anything. But this is an original I've had since I was a kid, and I've played this hundreds and hundreds of times.
I need to get that.
It's just brilliant. If you don't like it, I'll buy it from you.
There you go. Well, Syd,
and I'll have a poor opinion of you afterwards.
Oh my God.
But no, I know you will like it. You'll like it.
Any more albums? We always run out of time. We've got a few minutes left here. Go. I want a couple more from each here. Syd, do you have anything else for us? More essential albums that you can't live without? What do you got?
Yeah. So, I mean, this one, this is an obscurity, but it probably my favorite album of all time. This is Hatfield in the North, the Rotters Club. This is a Spanish pressing, I believe. I didn't bring the other pressings out here, but there are numerous. Hatfield in the North, out of the Canterbury scene in the UK, which also brought you Soft Machine, Caravan, etc. How would I describe Hatfield in the North? I mean, prog rock band, I guess, except they kind of swing a lot harder, a little closer to Zappa and some of the jazzier, fusionier stuff. There's a track called Mumps. It's about a 21-minute long epic that will absolutely, pin you to the back of the wall. If your couch has seatbelts, you're ready for this record. It is this record it's almost beyond my descriptive power. I shall never ever tire of listening to it. It is the sound of surprise, and it is not any of the typical prog rock tropes you will not find. There is not a druid, an elf, a hobbit. There's no mellotron. There's none of that stuff. It is all just incredible. Lots of improvisation. There's a segment during Mumps where Dave Stewart, the organ player, is soloing as if he were rocking out in 4/4. But if anyone can actually decode the time signature as to what's going on in the back end, please help me out. This is advanced math that's well beyond my capabilities. And it's a great sounding record too. The electric bass on this by Richard Sinclair, who also played with Camel and Caravan and is a superb vocalist to boot, is just out of this world.
Will it melt my face, Syd?
It will melt your face, your turntable, and potentially the entire West Coast. It should come with a warning label.
Wow. Another one I have to buy now. That's awesome.
I have a face melter to show.
Go for it.
All right, so this is now has become my favorite John Coltrane album, and I listen to it all the time. I stream it all the time when I work. This is John Coltrane's Ascension.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what this is a killer session. This is edition 2, which is actually the first take, and I think it's Coltrane's preferred take. But I like edition 1, edition 2. I like both of them. They're good. So this is a face melter. This is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if you do like it, I mean, it's fantastic. It's great. The lineup is Freddie Hubbard and Dewey Johnson on trumpet, Marion Brown on alto sax, John Takai on alto sax, Coltrane tenor, Pharoah Sanders tenor, Archie Shepp tenor, McCoy Tyner piano. And the other thing with this, it's like there's a bunch of chaos, but then it also breaks up, and then somebody comes up and solos. On side 2, there's a piano trio that gets a lot of room to stretch. It's a pretty varied record, but there's a bunch of chaos in there as well. And I think this is 1966. This influenced like Brotzman and the AACM and all of those kind of like free jazz outfits. And it's just fantastic. I didn't think I'd like it, and then a friend of mine recommended that I just get it, so I did, and I love it. So that's one, and I just want to quickly show one for Joe.
So you're ready for Chad's UHQR of Ascension, are you?
Oh, I would totally buy that.
I would too.
So just one for Joe, because I know you like Bach in the morning. I got these are mono auto Klimpers, and the stereo was just reissued by ERC, which put this on my radar. So I picked it up, and I love the Brandenburg Concertos. I've listened to it basically for studying my entire life, and I do love Bach, and I've been getting into classical a lot more. Michael Poetry on Plastic, Audiophilia, all these channels have really kind of helped direct me on how to collect classical, what to look out for, and it's really fun. So I've been really enjoying it, and these two Brandenburg Concertos are fantastic. So
listen to it this morning, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
yeah.
So those are mine.
Well, thank you. Well, I wanted to take it's almost the top of the hour here. I wanted to take a couple of questions from the viewers. If you guys have anything you want to talk to, ask Joe or Syd or Mike. I know one of the questions, Joe, I guess you really can't talk about what's coming out in your series. Is there any Christmas surprises that the folks might be excited about that might be announced soon that you can possibly tell us?
It will be announced soon.
I told you, these damn NDAs. We can't get anything out of this guy. So before Christmas, Tone Poet will have a pretty exciting announcement, is what you're trying to tell us.
Well, it'll be 2020, the 2024 lineup, and there'll be some surprises. Yeah,
excellent. And Jazz Bums will do a review on that when that comes out.
Exciting. That's exciting.
Sure. Great.
Very exciting. Well, I mean, it's basically the top of the hour. I mean, we can do one more each if you guys want before we go. I mean, if everyone wants to, if anyone has more. Okay, hang on. I gotta go get you to solo layout here. Go.
Cheap Heat, Woody Shaw, Rosewood, 1978, 78, 77. Recorded 77, released 1978 on Columbia. I mean, one of my favorite jazz records of all time, and I know sometimes people are like 70s jazz, and there's kind of an immediate by Joe and I have talked about this. It's a silly bias.
I knew Woody because Victor Lewis, my dear friend, was in that band.
Right.
And that band would come to the West Coast, and there's all kinds of crazy stories. I can't tell them.
No,
But it's a phenomenal band. And Syd, I almost picked that because I would agree with you. That is, all of Woody is stunning, but Rosewood is maybe arguably my fave of the bunch. Depends on the day, but that's a great choice.
His Woody, who was just talented beyond belief. I mean, his as a player, chops galore, but as an arranger, as a band leader, as a composer, his photographic memory. I mean, there's just the stories about Woody's abilities go on and on. But there's a particular track, Sun Showers, on Sun Showers, right, on this record.
Put the record up against it so people can see it. Hold it up. Hold it up. I'm going to put you back. Hang on.
We're going to
put it up and then turn it around too. We want to see this
around as well. Joe Henderson, for fans of Joe Henderson's sax playing, absolutely crushes it. His whole band, Carter Jefferson, Clint Houston, Steve, and, Victor Lewis, as Joe Harley said, it's you can find this record in bins all over the place. This is a really easy, inexpensive record to pick up, and it sounds great. And again, go, just jump on any, streaming service or YouTube and listen to Sun Showers. It's such an amazing jazz song that doesn't sound like other jazz songs. It's just got such a great groove.
There's a question from the viewer. I mean, this is, I guess, towards Joe, but I want Syd and Mike to basically ask Joe, any releases that you want to see in 2024 from Joe? What are some of the picks that you'd like to see Joe do?
I'd love Joe to do maybe some like 5000 series stuff, like do two 10 inches on a 12 inch. Nothing in particular. I mean, anything would be kind of cool. And I do love the 1500 series, like that Herbie Nichols trio that you put out, the Sonny Clark trio. Those were great reissues. So I love all that early stuff.
Syd?
In Joe we trust. I think what my personal preferences to what I see Blue Note doing has no impact on anything. So keep on keeping on. I feel like the team over there is doing great work. If I had anything that I would kind of like to see, there were some imports back in the day on CD. The other side of Blue Note's 1500 series coming out of Japan that would collect some of these kind of deeper cuts that you'd see bonus tracks, say, on some of these things. I mean, look, I'm sure some of the people who don't ever want to leave the analog domain, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think assembling these things would really be a challenge unless you were willing to kind of get into the digital domain in certain circumstances. But those would make some fascinating collections to see some of these outtakes that did wind up as bonus tracks or deeper cuts elsewhere. Again, for the real jazz fanatics, these are not mainstream releases by any stretch of the imagination, and that always starts to get into thin ice. As the accounting department starts to go, I'm not sure this is such a great idea, but personally, I'd love to see something like that.
This is a pretty good one. I think this is Pacific Jazz. Joe, is this Pacific Jazz? I got a Vogue UK, so but I'm pretty sure this is Pacific Jazz.
I'm not sure. It looks. I mean, there's a lot of Chet and Jerry on Pacific. I don't recognize that cover because that's a Vogue. So
this is a good one. And then I've peppered this in before, but the Clifford Brown on Pacific Jazz with Zoot Sims. I don't know. I don't know how the tape is or whatever, but that would be incredible. And then
I heard a rumor the tape's in pretty good shape.
Yeah. Excellent.
Someone told me that.
Wow.
I just picked up this over the weekend, Clifford Brown and Strings.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm usually not like a big in strings fan, but this is just exceptional.
So Joe, I'll put this up and I'll read this to anyone that just listens. But Joe, I must say that the Tone Poet and Blue Note series reissues are the most consistently well-produced reissues of all the jazz label output, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Keep it up, man. Good stuff.
Hey, Joe, is the Decca catalog, any of the Decca jazz stuff, some of the UK stuff, does that fall under your watchful eye at all?
No, unfortunately. I love a lot of that. I know what you're talking about, but no.
Because boy, my absolute number one wish for a reissue would be the Mike Taylor Quartet Pendulum. You know, one of the rarest UK jazz records ever. It's one of my favorite jazz records, but it is unobtainium. It is a real tough pull.
Well, thank you. Darren's enjoying this one. He apparently says this is the best ever in capitals roundtable. Steve, thank you. So Darren, thank you for watching. It's been fun. Any other questions for Joe or Syd or Mike before we end this best roundtable ever? It's going to be hard to beat now. This is the best roundtable ever, so I don't know. So, Joe, you're going out to see Kevin tomorrow?
Tomorrow and Thursday.
And so I was going to ask you, so do you actually take the tapes with you on the plane, or does Kevin have them already?
I don't know. I live in San Clemente. I drive up and spend 2 nights in LA and about 3 miles from Kevin's studio. And a messenger, the same messenger, I think it's called Accurate Messenger, brings the tapes from the vault and knows the whole drill. You know, comes to Kevin's back door and always says, what are you listening to in there? You know, and he's been bringing the tapes for, there's a woman too. So they split off, but no, they don't go on planes. It's messenger by hand.
I have a question.
Yep.
Joe, are you doing any special releases? Like, you know, in the past you've done like the Lee Morgan Lighthouse box set or the John Coltrane mono stereo plus outtakes. Is anything like that planned for the future?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
Good question. Joe, question here. One more question. Any new artists Joe is excited about? Or are you excited about any new artists?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, God, where to start? I mean, Frizzell's got new stuff coming. There's a, I'm going to space on his name. Super creative guitarist in LA that produces a lot of stuff. Why am I forgetting his name? Syd, do you know who I'm talking about? He produced give me a second, I'll find it. But yeah, his stuff is always great, and he has a new record, but I can't.
And also, and there were a lot of the viewers were asking me, guys. You know, you did your picks today. If you could email me those picks, I'm actually going to put all the picks that we talked about today in the description, so everyone has a chance to see which ones there were today. So if you would mind doing that at some point, that would be awesome.
Blake Mills was who I was trying to remember. Blake Mills.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
He's got a new album. Fantastic.
There you go.
That drummer, Sorry.
Tyshawn Sorry.
Yeah. I got his trio record, and then there's a JMI. There's a JMI release where him and his bass player play with that guitar player, Lund, I think his name is. Really good.
Cool.
Well, very, very good, guys. I think we'll leave it at that. So we went overtime again. You always do that to me, but I will say I got notification, Joe, today that this guy here is landed on my porch right now. My wife says so. That's my spin. That's my spin for tonight. So I'll put it up again.
Buckle up.
What do you? Yeah, is that a buckle up? Is that a face melter as well? The Jackie McLean. What do you think?
No, it's got it's not really avant in any way, but it's there. You go.
That's the original. Is that the original, Syd?
That is an original. Yep.
Hang on, I want to see what the original looks like there. Look at that.
Yeah. The old.
Wow. Nice condition.
But Woody and Jackie on that are just in typical Van Gelder fashion. He's got one of them sort of leftish, one of them rightish, and Rudy put them pretty hot in the mix. But it works. It works. And you got Jack DeJohnette playing drums. Yeah. I should shut up because people will say I'm biased, and I guess I am. But
hang on, you're not. But you have great work. I mean, it's good stuff that you guys are putting out right now. So I mean, you got to brag about it.
That's one of the best sounding tone poets I've heard.
There you go.
Sonically. Really, really good.
Dynamic is all get out, isn't it? It's It's like you shut the lights off and maybe have yourself an adult beverage, possibly,
Or two.
or what have you, and those cats are in the room.
There you go. So thank you guys, Joe Harley from Tone Poet. Thank you for your time today. Enjoy your time in California. Syd Schwartz at Jazz and Coffee, Instagram, and of course Mike from Jazz Bum. Thank you guys so much, and we'll put some descriptions of the albums we talked about in the down below at some point today when you guys get those to me. I'd really appreciate it. But anyways, guys, have a wonderful time, wonderful evening.
Thanks
Thanks
everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
See you.